$1.5 trillion. That's not the US national debt. That's not the GDP of a small country. That is the projected lifetime cost of a single weapons program. The F-35 fighter jet. One plane, one program, $1.5 trillion. And here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. America doesn't just spend that kind of money on war. America needs war to justify spending it. But the real story goes much deeper than a fighter jet. Because somewhere inside this machine, there's a number so disturbing, so carefully hidden from public debate, that once you see it, you can't unsee it. Stick around, because we're going to follow the money all the way to the top. Let's start with the basics. The United States defense budget for 2024 was $886 billion. That's more than the next 10 countries combined. China, Russia, India, Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, add them all up. America still spends more. Now, most people hear that number and assume it goes toward protecting the country. Soldiers, bases, missiles, defense, and some of it does. But a massive chunk of that money, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars, flows directly into the bank accounts of private corporations. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics. These aren't just weapons companies. They are the most powerful financial lobbying machines in the world. In 2023 alone, the defense industry spent over $100 million lobbying Congress. $100 million to influence the people who decide how much money goes back to them. That's not defense spending. That's an investment. And the return on that investment? Trillions. Here's where it gets interesting. Lockheed Martin, the single largest defense contractor in the world, made $67 billion in revenue in 2023. Nearly 70% of that came directly from the US government, meaning from taxpayers. So when Congress votes to authorize another weapons package, they are literally writing a check from your wallet to one of the most profitable corporations on Earth. And this isn't new. This system has been running for decades. In 1961, President Dwight D. Eisenhower stood before the nation and warned the world about exactly this. He called it the military-industrial complex, a permanent alliance between the defense industry and the government that profits from conflict. He said, and this is critical, that the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. That was 63 years ago. Nobody listened. Now let's zoom in on the actual machine. Every time a conflict breaks out anywhere on the planet, watch what happens to defense stocks. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, Lockheed Martin's stock jumped 14% within weeks. Raytheon climbed over 12%. Northrop Grumman hit all-time highs. War is a bull market for these companies, and it goes beyond stocks. The U.S. approved over $75 billion in aid to Ukraine by mid-2024. A significant portion of that aid was weapons. Javelins made by Raytheon and Lockheed. HIMARS systems, built by Lockheed. Stinger missiles. Patriot systems. Ukraine's war became a live-fire product demonstration, broadcast to every defense ministry in the world. And after watching those weapons perform, countries lined up to buy. Poland ordered nearly $4 billion in HIMARS systems. Finland expanded its defense contracts. Germany rearmed at a scale not seen since World War II. Every missile fired in Ukraine was a sales pitch, paid for by American taxpayers, profits collected by American corporations. But this machine runs on something more than just profit motive. It runs on geography and global economics. America's entire post-World War II strategy was built on one core idea. Control the world's trade routes, and you control the world. The U.S. Navy operates in every ocean. American military bases span over 70 countries. That presence costs money, enormous money. But here's what that presence buys. The U.S. dollar remains the world's reserve currency. Oil is priced in dollars. Global shipping is settled in dollars. When countries need to buy or sell almost anything on the international market, they need dollars. And that demand for dollars allows America to print money, run massive deficits, and export inflation to the rest of the world. This system is called dollar hegemony, and it is worth so much more than any single weapons contract. But here's the brutal truth. Dollar hegemony requires military dominance to survive. The moment another power can credibly challenge U.S. naval or military reach, countries start looking for alternatives. China is already pushing the yuan. Russia is settling energy trades in rubles and rupees. Saudi Arabia is quietly exploring non-dollar oil deals. Every time America pulls back from a conflict, the financial architecture that holds its economic empire together gets a little weaker. So the machine doesn't just fight wars for defense. It fights wars to protect the plumbing of global finance. And this brings us to the hidden number, the one buried deep inside budget documents and Pentagon reports. It's called the cost of maintaining readiness. Right now, even without an active major war, the United States spends roughly $50 billion a year just keeping its military on standby. Carrier strike groups deployed in the Pacific, special forces in Africa, drone operations across the Middle East, cyber warfare units running 24/7. $50 billion a year, every year, whether there's a war or not. And here's the uncomfortable question that Pentagon economists never ask publicly. If the wars stop, if the world actually becomes stable and peaceful, what happens to that $886 billion budget? Congress starts cutting, contracts disappear, factories close, hundreds of thousands of jobs connected to defense manufacturing vanish. Entire congressional districts that depend on Lockheed or Raytheon plants face economic collapse. Peace, paradoxically, is economically dangerous for the communities most tied to this machine. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a structural economic reality baked into how the U.S. defense economy functions. Let's talk about the newest front, because this machine doesn't stand still. Artificial intelligence, autonomous weapons, hypersonic missiles, space-based defense systems. The Pentagon has committed to modernizing across all 5 domains: land, sea, air, space, and cyber. And that modernization carries a price tag that will make the F-35 program look like pocket change. The Congressional Budget Office projects that nuclear modernization alone will cost $1.7 trillion over the next 30 years. Add AI weapons development, add satellite defense systems, add the next generation of stealth aircraft. We are looking at a defense economy that will likely exceed $2 trillion annually before 2040. And the contractors already know it. They're positioning. Mergers are happening. Acquisitions are accelerating. Anduril, Palantir, Shield AI. Silicon Valley is moving into the defense space because they can see where the money is going. The machine is growing. It is modernizing, and it is not slowing down. So let's bring it home. America built the most powerful military machine in human history. And somewhere along the way, that machine stopped being just a tool of foreign policy. It became the engine of an entire economic ecosystem, millions of jobs, trillions in contracts, the foundation of dollar dominance across the global financial system. To shut it down would be to pull a load-bearing wall out of the American economy. And so the machine runs, conflict after conflict, budget cycle after budget cycle, justified by genuine threats sometimes, manufactured by financial incentives sometimes, and always profitable for the right people. $1.5 trillion for one jet program. $86 billion deployed to a war on the other side of the world that became a product demo. $50 billion a year just to stay ready for a war that may never come. The question you have to ask yourself isn't whether America goes to war. The question is whether America can afford to stop. Now here's the question for you, and I want you to answer this honestly in the comments. Is the U.S. military-industrial complex a necessary evil that genuinely protects global stability and American interests? Or is it a self-serving machine that manufactures conflict to feed its own financial survival? Two sides, real stakes. Let's hear where you stand.